Hello everyone, my name's Simon Wiggins. I'm from Desert Channels, Queensland in Longreach. Thank you very much for the introduction and inviting me to speak to you today. Desert Channels, Queensland, the Natural Resource Management Group based in Longreach, has been reviewing the performance of weed control works undertaken in the last 10 years, and this is guiding our thinking. One of the critical weeds where we're currently focusing our attention is on prickly acacia, and it's about this particular species that I want to talk to you today. This is a weed which currently affects 6.6 million hectares and which, despite significant effort and expenditure by both the public and private sector, continues to increase in area. In fact, every containment area established has failed, and DCQ investment in the next 5 years is based on 4 key areas aimed at addressing this issue. The first is increased community awareness. The second is innovative weed control techniques. The third is stronger vehicle weed hygiene. And the fourth is better stock weed hygiene, particularly during the months of October and February. Today I'll talk to you about the innovative weed control techniques under development, its emerging capabilities, and outline some of the successes to date. DCQ investment criteria for the next 5 years is primarily based on landholders working together, and this is where we've got multiple adjoining properties linked by shared subcatchments or stock routes. The projects will be focused on control and eradication of weeds at strategic locations and maintaining and improving the grazing capacity of properties. We're targeting strategic areas that are actively increasing in size and where there is a threat of this occurring, and also where we can have long-term commitment by landholders for follow-up control. And these are based on 5-year weed plans with the landholders, Desert Channels Queensland and the local authorities as signatories. These outline investment by year and are backed by very detailed mapping. The last area of importance to us is that there must be strong community benefit. These are areas which, once protected, ensure that adjoining areas can be controlled and which lead to improved biodiversity outcomes. The strategic locations I discussed have been identified in conjunction with staff from the Queensland Department of Science, Information Technology, Innovation and the Arts, which have been working closely with Desert Channels Queensland on methodologies to identify these sites. They're based on using Landsat imagery with 25 years of data, using the foliar reflectance based on georeference sites established by DCQ. These areas are actively increasing in size and canopy density. They're areas which represent the seed sources and therefore the potential sites for recovery of treated areas, and essentially are the highest priority for control. There are also areas which, once removed, significantly reduce the overall density of prickly acacia and allow for more effective control techniques to be used. This allows prioritisation of both public and private investment at the property, but more significantly the landscape scale. We now know where to go, and we can identify the sites down to a pixel area of 25 metres by 25 metres. This is an example of the base mapping and is an area in the Northern Diamantina catchment. The denser the pixel density, the denser the infestation, and the more active the density increases. You can see firstly the strong correlation between these sites and watercourses and the need to focus control at these sites. And secondly, that blanket application of chemicals across a property is therefore not required. We can now target these areas, plan control techniques, and work with landholders to achieve outcomes and protect investment. In protecting the investment, DCQ is using, as described, multi-property plans, with landholders working together where they have a shared understanding of the outcomes and use peer group pressure to ensure that outcomes are achieved. These are multi-year investment where there is significant co-investment, and future DCQ investment is only based on the monitoring results and actions of activities in the preceding years. Combined in these plans is the management for stock and the movement of these stock between contaminated and clean areas, and also the use of innovative control techniques at strategic sites in places such as watercourses. This ensures that the rate of weed control can be increased, reduces the cost of weed control, and ensures that outcomes and priorities are maintained. This slide shows a dense infestation of prickly acacia, which was controlled using an unmanned aerial vehicle at the Mills Creek in the Upper Diamantina catchment. You will note that the mature native trees have been protected and that densities along the watercourse were in excess of 2,000 stems per hectare. The unmanned aerial vehicle being evaluated by Desert Channels Queensland in the proof of concept trials is the Yamaha RMAX, with a length of 3.9 metres, a takeoff weight of 100 kilos, an operational payload of 26 kilograms and an endurance of 45 minutes. It is capable of applying both liquid and pellet herbicides, and the machine is operated under an air operator certificate and flown by commercial pilots. The trial areas were controlled using fluoroxypyr and tebuthyron. No manuals existed for the work being undertaken by Desert Channels Queensland, and 46 flight hours was required for staff to perfect flight operations in these environments. Once operational capacity was reached, foliar applications along depression lines and watercourses could occur at a rate of 100 linear metres every 30 flying minutes, and you will note that these sites were particularly targeted due to the extreme workplace health and safety issues which needed to be overcome. These are images from the unmanned aerial vehicle. You will note the dense infestations along the Wockingham Creek, an otherwise healthy riverine community, and which has dense infestations occurring in isolated areas which require control. Here the unmanned aerial vehicle is in the spray configuration for liquid herbicides. It's controlled using GPS for positioning and for speed. The accuracy for application is plus or minus 1 metre, and therefore we're able to target specific plants for control, maintaining and protecting native species. This image shows the awesome capability of prickly acacia where mechanical disturbance occurs, where available moisture occurs. In this case, control was with fluoroxypyr and is a site on the Wockingham Creek in the northern Diamantina catchment. For those of you who would like to see imagery from the machine, this is a trial shot which was taken over the Wockingham Creek. You'll note the onboard camera is giving us some fairly accurate information. The machine is able to be controlled for forward speed very accurately and also location. In this case we were using the machine to give us some identification and some scoping for an infestation on the Wockingham Creek. You'll note that we can go as close as we need to mature native trees. We can pivot at any location, and the other thing that you'll note from this slide is that the prickly acacia is only occurring in the watercourse and has not actually moved on to the Downs country. The results to date occur from the trials but are starting to show some very encouraging signs. Desert Channels Queensland is able to achieve almost a 100% spray configuration with no evident shadowing, which is a problem for some of our other techniques such as the mister trials that are currently underway. But also compared to ground spraying, we're able to achieve a 4-fold efficiency increase. When we compare that with residual chemicals, we can get a 10-fold increase in efficiency. But more significantly, in both cases, we're removing the need for machinery to go into highly sensitive areas such as the watercourses. Desert Channels Queensland is using biocondition assessment monitoring sites to determine the impacts and the recovery of some of these sites. Quite significantly, Desert Channels Queensland has had a major reduction in workplace health and safety issues, particularly those associated with sending staff into these very dense and ultra-dense sites. As we discussed, we're able to get an accuracy for location of the chemical plus or minus 1 metre, and with each passing trial, new flight patterns are starting to be established. The results against the objectives of the trial have shown that we're certainly able to achieve operational capacity for the unmanned aerial vehicle, and this has occurred both in the application of foliar and residual chemicals. These are at some very challenging and complex sites, but the unmanned aerial vehicle, when operated correctly, is certainly able to do this work in a cost-effective manner. More significantly, the mapping that is identifying the strategic weed infestations has been shown to have a high level of accuracy and is acceptable for operational planning and will be used for Desert Channels Queensland investment over the next 5 years. A third result, which has come as a bit of a surprise, is that due to the eradication levels being achieved by removing these dense and ultra-dense sites, landholders are individually investing and are committing resources to staff to ongoing control through these weed plans at a level which is much higher than what we've previously seen. The results today indicate that the unmanned aerial vehicle certainly has a place in the future weed control, and that Desert Channels Queensland will be investing in ensuring that the unmanned aerial vehicle performance continues to improve over time. If you have any questions, you can contact Desert Channels Queensland, but otherwise I'd like to thank you for your time today.